Lauren, thank you so much for joining us. That DTS sound space was really great because it was acoustic, so it felt really special. And I haven't seen you since.
Yeah, I guess it's quite freaky to think that that's 2 years almost to the day that happened.
Does it feel like a long time ago?
Yes, like I guess our album had been out for a few months, but then now that album feels like years ago. Like so much happened in our lives before that anyway, and now so much has happened in the universe, so that just feels like I remember being there. I've seen pictures, so I know I must have been there, but I don't remember a lot about that time period compared to now.
I remember your dress. I forgot what you said, but you wanted to wear a certain thing. You wanted to feel like a ballerina that day. I don't remember, but you said something specific about the dress that you were wearing, and you looked so lovely.
Oh, thank you. Well, I had tons and tons of makeup on that day because I have really sensitive skin, and I'd had a face reaction to the hotel sheets of the place we were staying. So my face was like really swollen and inflamed and had loads of hives on it. And I didn't know what to do, so I was like, well, I'll just take it on. See if we think for it.
I think I remember. So this is what I want to ask you. This is how I want to start our conversation. An artist like yourself has the gift and the ability to process life and interpret life by using your craft, which is songwriting and making music. You're able to help the rest of us humans cope with life via your arts. This year has thrown a lot at us. So 2 parts. How have you been coping just as a human, and how has your artistic brain been processing this year?
Man. I feel like, as for everybody, I'm sure everyone's kind of gone through ups and downs. And I was reading something the other day. It was a doctor that works in pandemic type situations regularly, or emergency type situations. And she was talking about how there's definitely a 6-month curve in how she deals with things. She was like, every 6 months there will be a wave, and that you feel like you've hit a wall, but then you just push through that and carry on. Which was helpful because in theory, I thought we were going to be so productive. Like in March, when we first went into lockdown, I was like, oh, we'll get so much done. And we'll be just playing by the rules, staying inside and just working. And then it doesn't really work like that, I don't think, a lot of the time. Like, it definitely has come in waves, especially for lyrics. I think sometimes like, literally there's been weeks where I've just sat down. I sit down at my desk every day. I sit there, think today's going to be the day, and absolutely nothing happens. But over the course of the 6-7 months we've been here, we have made the record. We're just finalizing the recording of it now, so it's done. And I guess, yeah, we were just trying to forget the outside world. You don't go outside anymore, so it's not like you need to worry about it too much, but just write what felt that we were trying to get out, if that makes sense. Like when you were saying that artists communicate things in that way, like I feel like I'm trying to figure out how I feel and how I think first, and just get that down on the paper. And then if that resonates with somebody, then that
resonates with somebody.
Yeah, like I feel like if you write a song, you're like, I'm going to make a song that's really going to resonate with somebody. Like maybe some people can work like that, but I think, I don't know, whenever we think like that, we look at it at the end and we're like, what's this cheesy piece of crap? Like,
I always think it's interesting. So many times when an artist like yourself gets interviewed, people tend to ask, can you tell me what this song means? And I don't think we should ever ask artists that, because it's more likely to resonate with me if I don't know your interpretation. Like, I will take your lyrics and I will definitely apply them in some way or another. But was this process different for you, considering that you weren't going outside? Like, was it different because maybe you were trying to figure out things in a way that you hadn't before?
I think there's less preoccupation with the bullshit. You don't have to believe that.
Yes, no, it's true. There was so much bullshit, and I think one of the benefits of what's been happening is you truly just don't, I don't have the energy for the bullshit. Yeah. So it's going away.
And especially in terms of writing, like I don't think that we write like that generally, but then, you know, the last record was more pop quite purposefully. And again, it was like, how can you still say what we're trying to say, but do it in this much narrower medium. And I think I'm really glad we did that. I feel like that's part of the journey of the thing. But I was like, man, if I have to stay inside and make a record with that kind of mentality right now, I don't think that would work. So if anything, it's cool to have made a record like that, and we've done that. And I'm still incredibly proud of it. But I feel like that's that part of the that's that chapter in the story, yeah, what feels genuine now. And I just think, I don't know, playing those kind of, trying to play that kind of game just,
you're right,
doesn't feel useful or honest for Snap.
You're right. So how would you say that this would surprise this, whatever we're going to get? Do you think it's going to surprise your fans in any way? Like, what is one thing you think most people will take away from it?
Ooh, these are tricky questions.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure everybody says this whenever you ask people, but it does to me genuinely feel like an evolution, like a culmination of what we've been doing so far. I feel like the first two records kind of exist in a couplet together almost, because they were so similar. And then the third record is like a different kind of beast. And I feel like the fourth record, I don't think it feels like any of those other records. I feel like the DNA of the band is still in there, but it's like almost 9 years into being the band.
But you've expanded your abilities, so you have room to play, which I always think is so beautiful when an artist allows themselves to evolve instead of sticking to a sound that they think people want. Like, I appreciate the evolution of a musician. When you create, you maintain your DNA, but you create enough space that you allow yourself some experimentation, some playing around, and just some growth. I think it's so healthy.
Well, and I think we always just keep coming back to like the idea of honesty in what we're saying. And I don't know, like I had a few like themes in mind when we were going into the writing, but we kind of just waited to see how it was going to evolve. And then after about 5 or 6 songs, we were like, okay, this is definitely what this is. And I like that in artists too. Like, yes, there's still certain records that are your favorite out of people's catalog because those albums are more special to you because of what they mean for you at that time in your life. But I don't want somebody to make the same album over and over and over again, you know? And if you did do that, I think people would be disappointed, understandably.
And bored.
Yeah. And for me as a fan of bands, I don't want that. And for me as a writer, like by the time this record comes out, I'll be 33 and I was 24 when we wrote the first album. So I don't feel like you should be writing the same stuff at those two different points. Like there's obviously things that have been consistent throughout that, but you know, what you are feeling and going through and have experienced at those times is very different.
Yeah, you're growing up. Thank you for letting us join you on that ride. I know it's crazy. I will say that, especially as women, like the thought of growing older, it really, you know, it's not the most pleasant thought, but I will say that growing older, there is a wisdom that you carry with you, and you grow thicker skin, and you just care less about, again, the bullshit.
I think so. And I feel like that's what's been refreshing going into this album, like with where humanity is at this point, and even like what we learned from the last album. Like a lot of stuff happened in that 2-year period, and I just feel like what a waste of time to be preoccupied with, not the album was a waste of time, to be preoccupied with just stuff that doesn't matter. And my birthday is in a few weeks, so I think that's what I'm thinking. I was like, I don't want 33. I didn't really get to use 32 that much. I want to give it back. Like because I did not get the required use out of it. But you know, especially in this moment in time, I'm just trying to balance out the societal fears that's definitely fed to everybody, but especially to women. But then especially right now, like growing older is a privilege that not everybody gets. So
I agree. I'm going to ask you some really quick questions.
Thank you on the forehead.
You don't look a day over 19, my dear. I'm going to ask you some quick questions, but as far as the recording process, considering the restrictions that we have you been able to record with your bandmates in the same room?
We did 90% of it separately, but Martin lives about a mile away from me, so I don't know if this is technically allowed, but we have formed a 2-house bubble We don't go anywhere else. I literally don't go, because we were like, if we're going to do it, we need to do it safely. So everything was done, but now that it's final vocal take time, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but it's final vocal take time. Yeah. And we were like, okay, so we literally don't go anywhere. We do not. We get our groceries like delivered to the door, and we wipe it. We don't go outside. But I think, that was really weird, being in the same room again for the first time in like 6 months. And the longest I've been apart from those guys since 2012 was maybe 2.5 weeks.
Now, in your personal life, like just human, not you, the musician, but is there anything that you think you were taking for granted before we all got shut down? I'll give you an example. I was supposed to go see Tame Impala before the shutdown, but I just felt like I don't want to drive to the Forum today, and I was being such a brat about it. And I wish so badly that I'd gone to that show, because I took so many of those privileges for granted, thinking that they were always going to be there. So is there anything that you think you took for granted that once given the opportunity, you will never do again?
I mean, so many things, like being in a band, like we've toured so much, and obviously we're incredibly grateful for it anyway, because live is how the band's increased in size because more people found out about it. But also, it's the place that bands make money, it's touring. But there's definitely been times when people have been like, oh, I'm so tired, I can't believe 5 more weeks of this. And now I'm like, blasphemy, that's awful. Like, nobody will ever complain in an airport at 4 a.m. ever again. Like, and even simple things like, we're away from our friends and family a lot because we're touring anyway. And you have to, when we're touring, I have to stay in, sounds dramatic, I have to stay inside quite a lot because, when you get to a venue at certain times, it's not super safe to be wandering around. So I'm more used to being inside than most people. But, it's bizarre. I haven't seen my family since Christmas, which I know is the case for a lot of people, but I don't know what the situation is going to be if I can get home to see them this Christmas. So that's quite, And I used to not think about that. Even something as simple as like just walking. I love walking around. I sound like a little old man. I love it.
Love my long walks.
I know. I used to walk to work all the time before I was in the band. I'd walk to work every day, and I always like to walk to the shops and get my groceries. And like now, I'm like, it's weird that things that are so simple, seemingly simple. If you see your friend, you cannot hug your friend. Like it's just small things like that. If I had known that, I would have like.
I would have held on and never let go.
Please. I have cats now, so it's okay. They're actually sitting behind the computer while we're talking. They're having a little.
Oh.
They're just in a little pile.
Wait, how many are they?
There are 2, isn't it? There's one here, and there's one on the back there. Oh.
So those are your pandemic bubble buddies?
Yeah, I can squeeze them till their eyeballs pop out, but not other people.
Now, if there's one thing that you can say that you've taken from this that's positive, something maybe awesome that you've learned about yourself, or something that you've realized that you love more than you did before, like what's one positive that's come out of this madness?
I think just, it's essentially silly maybe, but I've learned that I love stories, no matter what form those things are in, whether that's a book or a TV show or a film or a song to an extent. Like I do totally believe in the ability of those things to just allow you to escape and just transcend into another space for half an hour and a half, whatever it is.
That's like not silly.
It's been really like nourishing. It's like I can spend all day worrying about things and worrying about just everything, but then I do think there's something in like someone's ability to tell a story that's so good that it lets you escape into that world for that amount of time, and that's just been a real life-saving, heart-saving thing to be able to do, I think. So thank you to the people that write the stories. I need them.
That's not silly at all. I think that's how so many of us have been spending our time because we're home, is diving into music. Music does that, but it's shorter form. But I know what you're talking about, those longer form, that storytelling where you just completely get sucked into another world and it makes your mind go in a million different directions. And for a while, you're somewhere else. It's a magical coping mechanism.
Really
Like,
makes me appreciate the good storytelling, because I've watched some stuff during this lockdown where I've been like,
that's tough.
rubbish. And because I've got so much to compare to now, apparently I am the arbiter of whatever, and I'm like, that was excellent. And I'm like, this I did not believe. At one point I was looking at my phone at the same time. But other things I'm like, oh my god, and then what happened? Oh my god.
Wait, is there one story that maybe like captivated you more than any other? Like, is there anything that you've seen on Netflix or movie that maybe you can share with your fans?
Well, I'm up to date with The Vow. I don't know if anybody's been watching that.
The cult one on HBO. I'm not up to date yet. I'm like 3 episodes in. It is fantastic. I have so many questions.
Obviously, it's a real like thing that happened, but the way that they're telling that and communicating that, oh my god, like that. Yeah. And also, I know I'm a decade late, and I know I'm a grown woman, but I've started watching Pretty Little Liars.
Oh no, I watched it too. And for the rest of your life, you're going to try and still figure out who A really is. Trust me.
I'm at season 2, and I'm just like gasping. I have to like ration myself because I can't.
Lauren.
I'm like, we're going to be here for quite a lot longer, I think. Or maybe not.
Lauren, it's a long, complicated ride. Oh, I wish you would have told me first. But no, it's completely amazing.
I heard that season 5 is a bit...
There's a couple of seasons that are a bit like that. But for the most part, you get to know the characters in a way that you just, at the end, you're just in it for the characters. Because the story goes a little wonky.
At this point, and I guess you've seen everything, so you know. At this point, I'm just a little confused by this double standard that we're supposed to be annoyed at a certain handful of guys who are dating high schoolers, but we're not supposed to be annoyed at Mr. Fitz. I don't understand that. I was like, but he's the same age as Ian. He's the same age. You're also like high school, and it's worse because he's a teacher. But I get that we're supposed to be like, oh, isn't it so dreamy? And they get together. But I'm like, that's like, feeling it. Like, I don't know.
It's also not really that dreamy, in my opinion. It's just not that dreamy. And it's morally wrong.
Maybe if I'd watched it when it came out and I was that age, as a 32-year-old woman watching it, I'm like,
it's just freaking creepy.
Well, Aria's friends not telling her, this is not cool.
There's other things along the way that are going to be just as creepy, if not more so, on this journey. Yeah. I'm telling you, it goes a little bit sideways. So I'll be curious to see what you think at the end of the journey. So we'll have to reconnect.
Maybe by the next time we get to come into the KROQ building, then I'll be like, right, I've finished it. I've written my thesis. I'm ready to talk.
God, I hope so. I haven't been to the KROQ building in so long. They kicked us out in March for our own safety, and we've been broadcasting from home. And I just miss the studio. I miss so much, but I don't want to hold on to the sadness or the desperation of it all, because it is what it is. We're making the best of it. And I'm looking forward to see what's on the other side of this. But the final question is, we're here celebrating 100 years of radio, and you've been a big part of our radio station. So I want to know what radio has meant to you, either now as an artist or growing up.
Well, for me, growing up, radio was on all the time. Like every morning when we would go to school, it would be on in the car, and it would be like my radio alarm when I woke up in the morning. And I would listen to the Top 40 Countdown on BBC Radio every Sunday to find out what was number 1. And then you would know what was going to be on Top of the Pops on Friday. Or you could bet, like, if the Spice Girls were number 1, were they going to be on Top of the Pops? Probably. So, yeah, I feel like it's always been something that is important to me personally. And for the band, like, honestly, without radio, I don't think we would be where we are. Like, we can definitely track upticks in people finding out about the band from managing to get on college radio and then managing to get on alternative radio. And having a single playlist, it genuinely makes the difference between your tour breaking even and your tour actually expanding the band. And yeah, so we're eternally grateful to be on the radio. And you know, a lot of the time when you listen to certain kinds of radio, you don't hear a lot of women on it. Like a lot of alternative or rock radio is still very male and very white. So the fact that things seem to be changing slightly, or people are trying to push things, and every time we get playlisted, I'm like, wow, it didn't necessarily used to happen, or it definitely was a lot. Like, we'd have to really, really beg people to do it. So yeah, we're always really grateful to you guys. And I think, yeah, especially the recent changes, like talking about really supporting new music in that way, definitely makes a difference to bands like us. So
Well, it's been great to play you every single time, and you're always so lovely and classy, and everything you put out is absolutely magical. Do you have any more for us as far as information that you're allowed to tell us regarding new music or when we might be able to get some of it?
Timelines have not been officially confirmed. We're talking about them. So yeah, we're further towards the end of the process than the beginning, I would say, in terms of our job. And I guess there technically there's evidence of guitars on this album.
Okay. I want to leave it on that note.
Yeah.
I don't want to push for anything else.
Nobody trusts me with the guitar, but Ian and Martin, there is evidence. Oh, but the synths are still there, but there's potentially more KROQ friendly material.
Wow. I'm so intrigued. Well, I can't wait to hear
that
it.
That was right at the end. It's on record now. I'm like, we did it for you.
Yes. Well, Lauren, thank you so much. That memory of that performance, that memory will stay with me because it was such a lovely time, but also connecting with people like this now is also a highlight. So when I look back on my week and my year, I'll be like, I got to talk to Lauren from CHVRCHES, and this is also a really great highlight. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for asking us. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, and I can't wait to hear what you've done with guitars. Also, get back to me when you're done with Pretty Little Liars, because I'm so curious to see what you're going to think. It's either
I'm like, oh yeah, the next episode, there's a thumbnail for the next episode and everyone's wearing riding hats. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, it gets weird, Lauren. It gets really weird.
Oh, they just had a fashion show for no reason. I was like, teenagers in local high schools are doing fashion shows?
I'm going to leave you with one thing and won't say much, but at some point, one of the main characters is an asylum.
Oh, that's scary. I don't like that.
Yeah. That's it. I'm going to leave you with that. Have an amazing week.
I have to go watch all these shows.
Have an amazing week. It was so good to see your face.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good day. Be safe.
You're welcome. Bye then.